What really makes someone a cult leader? Is it a special power? A dark charisma we can't explain? Or is it a blueprint? A predictable, psychological blueprint. Today, we are deconstructing the four-part psychological blueprint that Charles Manson used to forge a family and unleash hell. By the end of this, you won't just see him as a monster, you'll understand him as an architect. And you'll have a framework to recognize these exact same tactics in the world today. We all think we know the story. A group of idealistic, lost hippies, high on drugs, were manipulated by a singular, evil mastermind. But what if the mastermind part is wrong? The evidence shows Charles Manson wasn't a brilliant strategist. According to Jeff Gwynn's definitive biography, Manson was a deeply insecure, impulsive career criminal who simply stumbled upon a perfect storm of manipulation. He wasn't playing chess. He was a dark, psychological improviser. And his entire life had been practice. Welcome to The Mind Explained, the place where we uncover the why behind our behavior. Before Manson was a cult leader, he was a failure. He failed as a pimp. He failed as a car thief. And most crushingly for him, he failed as a musician. He spent nearly half his life in institutions, and as he told prosecutor Vincent Bugliosi, prison is where he truly learned his philosophy. He didn't have charisma in the way we think. What he had was a clinical, predatory toolkit. In psychology, there's a concept known as the Dark Triad. It's the trifecta of toxic personalities, and Manson was a case study. First, narcissism. This was his grandiose sense of self-worth. Manson didn't just want to be a rock star. He believed he was a messiah, the fifth angel from the Book of Revelation. Second, Machiavellianism. This is strategic, cynical manipulation. His helter-skelter prophecy, his belief that the Beatles' White Album was warning of an apocalyptic race war, was his ultimate con. He used it as an aspirational tool, a fraudulent vision of a future where he and his family would emerge from the desert to rule the world. And finally, the engine that powers it all, psychopathy. Dr. Robert Hare, the creator of the psychopathy checklist, defined psychopaths by their glib charm, pathological lying, and a terrifying lack of empathy or remorse. Manson was an expert at reading people's needs. He'd find a lost girl, mirror her insecurities, and make her feel like the most seen person on earth. That was the charm. But it was a mask, hiding a void. So, Manson had the personality. But a personality alone doesn't build a cult. Prepare to understand the four-part psychological architecture he used to dismantle a human mind. The BITE model is a terrifyingly precise blueprint for control. We'll reveal it right after this. Welcome back to The Mind Explained. We've just seen the predatory personality. Now, let's pull back the curtain on the method. How do you get seemingly normal people to abandon their lives, their families, and their morals? You don't do it overnight. You do it by 1,000 tiny cuts. Cult expert Hassan created a framework for this. He calls it the BITE model. It's a 4-point system for eroding a person's identity. Manson, the improviser, used every single part of it. B is for behavior control. This is the most direct. As the youngest member, Diane Lake, described in her memoir, Manson controlled everything. Diet. Sleep. He dictated who slept with whom. He forced them on creepy crawling drills, sinister practice runs where they'd sneak into strangers' homes just to rearrange the furniture. It was about breaking boundaries, one small invasion at a time. I is for information control. Manson isolated the family at Spawn Ranch, a dilapidated movie set cut off from the world. No newspapers. No outside contact. He demonized the outside world, creating an US versus them bubble. Everyone out there? They were pigs. The family was the only truth. T is for thought control. This is the most insidious. Manson installed a new belief system, the helter-skelter prophecy. It was a new language, a new reality that only he could interpret. By controlling the ideology, he controlled how they processed the world. E is for emotional control. This is the one that seals the trap. Manson didn't lead with fear. He led with love bombing. He took in these kids, runaways, outcasts, and showered them with affection, making them feel part of an exclusive special family. Only after they were dependent on that love did he introduce the fear of the coming race war, fear of the pigs, and ultimately, fear of leaving. This bite model is a terrifyingly effective blueprint for psychological manipulation. And as we continue, I have a question for you all. Let me know in the comments below, what time is it where you're watching this? Are you in the US, or somewhere else in the world? It's important, because this framework explains the how, but it doesn't explain the why. Why did so many smart, educated, middle-class kids fall for it? The answer is a hidden psychological trap, a sunk cost fallacy of the soul. We'll delve into the mind of the follower. Next. Welcome back. We've just deconstructed the bite model, but a blueprint needs a victim. It's easy for us, decades later, to look at the Manson followers and think they were just weak or stupid. They weren't. They were searching. They were the children of the 1950s establishment, running from a world they saw as hypocritical and running toward anything that felt authentic. They were seeking an aspirational life, a utopia. Manson offered them a fraudulent one. And once he got them to take the first step, a powerful psychological trap snapped shut. It's called cognitive dissonance, a theory from psychologist Leon Festinger. It's the profound discomfort we feel when our actions conflict with our belief. Imagine you're a follower. You believe you're a good person. But Charlie asks you to commit a small crime, shoplift food for the family. Now you have two conflicting thoughts: I am a good person, and I just stole. This conflict is painful. You have to resolve it. You can't change the past, you did steal. So, you must change your belief. Stealing isn't wrong, if it's for the family. The establishment is corrupt anyway. Charlie must be right. This is the sunk cost fallacy of the soul. With every small compromise, every yes to Manson, the followers had to double down on their belief in him to justify their own actions. They became trapped by their own need for consistency. This is what I call the urgency trap. The need to resolve that inner conflict now pushes you further in. What do you think of that urgency trap? Have you ever felt a version of that, where you've gone too far down a path to turn back? But this dissonance only explains why they stayed. It doesn't explain how they could kill. For that, we need one more concept: moral disengagement. Coined by psychologist Albert Bandura, it's the process of switching off your conscience. The Manson followers used it perfectly. First, euphemistic labeling. They weren't murdering people. They were offing pigs, or bringing in helter-skelter. They changed the language to sanitize the act. Second, dehumanization. Their victims weren't people. They were symbols of the corrupt establishment that had to be destroyed. They were pigs. And finally, displacement of responsibility. As prosecutor Bugliosi detailed in Helter Skelter, the followers all said the same thing: we didn't decide to do this. Charlie told us to do it. They became a passive instrument. Their hands were clean, psychologically. So you have a psychopathic leader, a blueprint for control, and a group of followers trapped by their own minds. But even that isn't enough to create murder. You need one final ingredient: the perfect toxic environment. What really happened at Spawn Ranch? The answer lies in what one psychologist calls the Lucifer effect. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to The Mind Explained. We've seen the leader and the followers. Now, we explore the situation. How do good people turn evil? Stanford psychologist Philip Zimbardo, famous for his prison experiment, calls it the Lucifer effect. His work proves that a toxic situation can override an individual's morality. And Spawn Ranch was the perfect toxic situation. It wasn't just a place. It was a petri dish. It was physically isolated, a place with no rules but Manson's. It was drug-fueled. This wasn't recreational LSD. This was weaponized LSD, used by Manson to blur reality and make his prophecies seem like divine revelation. And it was all happening at a precise moment in history, 1969. The summer of love was dead. The counterculture was turning dark. This was the perfect storm. Manson, the psychopath, plus the bite model, the tools, plus cognitive dissonance, the followers, plus Spawn Ranch, the situation. Manson didn't create the storm. He just was it. He was the dark improvisation that the moment was waiting for. But here's the critical part: this blueprint didn't die with Manson. How are these exact same tactics being used right now in business, politics, and online? The answer will change how you see the world. We'll connect the dots. Next. Welcome back. We've seen how Charles Manson became an architect of ruin. So what makes someone a modern cult leader? It's not magic. It's a blueprint. It's a leader with Dark Triad traits. It's the bite model to control and isolate. It's cognitive dissonance to trap followers. And it's a toxic situation that allows it all to fester. Manson's blueprint didn't die with him. We see echoes of this psychological manipulation every day. We see it in aspirational fraud, where online gurus promise a secret to wealth, isolating you from negative family members and controlling your information. We see it in toxic workplaces, with a narcissistic boss who love bombs and then devalues, demanding total loyalty. We see it in high-pressure movements that use dehumanizing language for their opponents and demand you prove your loyalty through escalating acts. The defense against this isn't knowing Manson's face. It's knowing his tactics. It's having the courage to spot the blueprint when someone tries to control your behavior, your information, your thoughts, or your emotions. If this breakdown gave you a new framework for understanding the world, do me a favor and hit the like button. It tells the algorithm that more people need to see this. And be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. We post new stories every week that dive deep into the why of human nature. My final question for you: where do you see these psychological tactics playing out in the world today? Let's discuss it thoughtfully in the comments.